Hello, hello. Welcome to the cybersecurity party. Welcome, everyone. Come on in. Good afternoon. Giving you guys a moment to all come in. Come on in. All righty. So we're really excited about today's session. We have some wonderful guests here today on the panel. I'm going to ask if you are not a panelist, if you can mute yourself. Definitely come on camera if you're able to. If you're able to come on camera, we would love to see your faces. But we do ask that you mute yourself. And we're going to get started with some introductions. This is for you guys. We're super excited about it. This is our first of many more to come. And let me kick it off and just introduce myself in case you guys don't know already, but many of you guys may already have met with me before. I am Deidra, Talent Program Manager here at YUPRO. If you are familiar with Year Up, I am a Year Up alum from the DC site in 2007. And I've been with Year Up since in some capacity or another. So it's lovely to have you all here today. We're estimating, I know someone just sent me a question about how long the session may be. About an hour. We have you guys here for about an hour. But let's get into why we're here and who is here for you guys. So today we wanted to do a workshop or a session for you guys to talk about how to get into the cybersecurity field. Many of you have expressed interest in trying to get kickstart your cybersecurity career, trying to figure out how to do that, how to navigate, what's needed, all of that good stuff. And we felt it would be best if some professionals in that industry could answer those questions for you. So definitely have your questions ready. This again is geared for you guys. We will come to you for questions for you to ask these panelists. And who's here on our panel today to answer some of these questions for you? We have Cameron Buck of Apex Systems. Cameron, if you come off mute and say hi and wave so they can see you.
Hi, how's everybody doing? Yeah, I'm with Apex. I'm a delivery engineer here with us, and I spent better part of 9 years as a recruiter.
Uh-oh, please mute yourself coming in. Thank you, thank you. All right. Yeah, so Cameron was just pointing out who Cameron was. We're going to definitely get into introductions really quickly. We have Cameron Buck of Apex Systems, as well as Kim Holloway of Department of Defense, and her colleague Mark Sweet may be able to jump in and join as well. He too is with Department of Defense. These guys all have experience in the industry in some capacity or another. And so you guys will get to hear from them. So I'm going to kick it off and jump into the introductions officially. And we can start off with Cameron. Cameron, you were ready to go for it. So Cameron, if you can introduce yourself of what it is that you do and where you are.
Yeah, for sure. So, I'm with Apex Systems. We're an IT consulting and staffing firm. I've been with the company for just over 9 years, spent a lot of that time as a security recruiter out of the Kansas City branch. Did a lot of work in the DoD space here. Also moved in recently to a new role as a delivery engineer. So I've got a pretty good scope of the lay of the land from a national standpoint as far as what the security industry looks like, the hot skill sets, like where places are hiring, that sort of a thing.
Thank you. Thank you, Cameron. All righty. And Kim, if you, there you go, Kim, yes.
Sorry, I can't show my video right now. I'm currently at my headquarters and we don't allow a video, but at least you can hear me. So My name is Kim Holloway. I graduated from Europe in January 2011 and was hired by my internship company. And I spent there about 4.5 to 5 years until I got my bachelor's in cybersecurity, and went as a contractor working for public and private entities before I was snagged up by the federal government. I worked at the federal government in 2015 and continue to this day. My federal resume is from Department of Treasury headquarters, Nuclear Regulatory Commission headquarters, as well as Department of Justice headquarters, and now Department of Defense Joint Force headquarters, DODIN, Defense Operations Internet, so basically network. So I work as a cybersecurity inspector for the whole entire DoD. So I literally go to each DoD agency and tell them holistically what they can improve, so we can change the human aspect as well as the technical aspect to improve the DoDIN as well as protect the DoDIN.
Talking some big technical terms there, the DoDIN.
Yeah, it's a long word. That's the only thing about the federal working for the federal government. We like to say basically the abbreviated version, because if I say DoDIN, then there's going to be Joint Force HQ, and that is a very long word to basically repeat multiple times.
Yes. Awesome. And Kimberly, let us know when Mark joins us. I don't want to miss him when he does, if he does get a chance to come on.
So unfortunately, we kind of have this, he's in the same conference room with me, but he's working with our other guests. So right now I'm actually the acting branch chief for our branch, since our branch chief is away. And so he is facilitating our other conversations with our visitor from another agency.
Sounds like an important and busy guy. So,
Yep.
So Kim, you'll hold it down. Okay. All right. So the first question that I want to ask the two of you, Cameron and Kimberly, is, I know that many of the attendees here today are trying to understand how to get into this field. But first, I just want to take it a step back and ask if you can break it down. How would you explain cybersecurity to a 5-year-old? What is cybersecurity?
Who wants to go first, team? Either way.
Oh, you could go ahead. You had the video, so it looks more impressive.
Okay. Yeah, so cybersecurity, I feel like can be simplified to, I mean, the nuts and bolts is really this. Cyber is a way for a company to protect itself and its digital assets from outside attack, right? So it is preventing the bad guys from using a computer to access things that they shouldn't, essentially. And of course, as everybody on this call knows, when you start to open up the layers of that, it goes, in 100 different directions. And the job title security engineer can mean 100 different things.
Thank you for that, Cameron. I like how you use the term protect from bad guys. Yeah. And Kim, how would you respond to that?
So I have both Mark and my responses. So my response is, think of cybersecurity as the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. You have different rangers that represents the different aspects of cybersecurity, and they protect your information, your network from the bad guys, essentially. And for Mark's portion, it's basically like locking your house doors, but for computers.
Oh, man.
The basic way we can explain it is locking your house doors, but for computers. Is the common sense portion.
I love all of these analogies. I do, and especially because I'm not as technical, so that really helps me understand it a lot more. And so I'm pretty sure those that are here, those that have registered to attend and came here today, they probably already have a good understanding of what it is, but it's always helpful to make sure that we all kind of have a general idea of what cybersecurity is. And so I am going to open it up actually to those that were able to join us today, because again, this panel is for you guys, right? Kim, Mark, and Cameron are here for you guys. Some of you guys did have some questions already prepared, but certainly I am going to ask if you guys can do the reaction or raise your hand. Raise your hand, please, and we'll come to you and open it up for questions. Let us know what you have. We'll take a second to see who may wants to jump in and ask some questions. All right, they're ready for you, Cameron and Kim. They're coming. All right. So the first hand I see is Elias. I hope I'm saying that name correctly. Elias, if you could come off mute and ask your question.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Am I double muted? Oh, perfect.
Yes, we can.
So thank you for taking the time, everybody. Just a quick question. I already have my CEH. Is there any other certifications that you guys recommend to better enhance my, what's it called, career field in cyber?
Yeah, no, for sure. So I will say getting a Sec Plus would be the next step. You know, a CEH, certified ethical hacker, is great, especially if you want to go the route of you know, red teaming and offensive security. You know, the Security Plus certification, for what we see, a lot of our clients kind of look at that as being somebody that from an entry level standpoint has, you know, understood security from a well-rounded standpoint. So I would definitely move towards that. That's kind of the industry standard. I feel like, especially, I did a lot of work in the DoD space. You know, there's a lot of jobs out there in that space, and a Security Plus was mandatory for 90% of what we saw.
I'll like to jump in. So it really depends on where you want to go. So if you are going on the private sector, really you having a CEH is awesome. It really also depends on what you want to do for your career in cybersecurity. CEH can go long ways as far as being working in a SOC and a red team. I've been there. If you're going for the government, your basic certification to work at the DoD is a Security Plus.
Can I have a quick follow-up with that? Thank you. I already got my Security Plus a couple of years ago and it expired. Do you recommend renewing it? Because I didn't renew it because I was like, I already have CEH. So CEH is a little bit higher than Security Plus. Do you recommend renewing Security Plus?
It depends upon what, let me ask you this. Where do you want to go in your career in security?
More into the government sector.
In the government, is that what you said?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Renew it.
You must have your Security Plus to, if you ever want to work in like the fields that I'm working in, the 2210 series is the information security management or information systems management. You have to have your Security Plus. It's mandatory for DoD. It is a desired, a preferred qualification if you're going to work for the civilian side, like Department of Treasury or any of the other civilian agencies. But for Department of Defense, it is a must. You have at least 6 months after you're hired to get your certification, or else pretty much your sponsor or your supervisor will be hounded by HR saying, hey, if you don't have your certification by now, they can extend it depending on the circumstances, or they literally boot you.
Noted. Thank you.
Good question, Elias. All right, next up, Mahak. If I'm saying that correctly, Mahak.
Yeah. So I have a pretty elementary understanding of, you know, what cybersecurity is. I just like graduated high school 10 days ago, and the a book that got me into this is like this. You know, I hope like, you know, you guys. So I got interested into you know, cybersecurity through this book. Am I audible?
I don't know if anybody else is having a connection issue here, but it's,
yeah. Mahak, I'm so sorry, but it's breaking
Hello,
up.
am I audible?
Can you repeat yourself, please?
Yeah, am I audible?
Now you are.
yeah.
Yeah. I think there's some network issue. So I would start over again. So I would give you like a small short intro. I just graduated high school, and the book that got me into like cyber security and the like the defense field was like Permanent Record by Edward Snowden. Uh, Not the later part, but the initial part of it. So I just wanted to like ask, how it is like, compared to like written in a book to the actual field. And like he was hired without a degree, like he didn't graduate college. So like would I just do the certification and not do the college, or like how does it works? And if you have the time, I would like to ask another follow-up.
Yeah. So
Go ahead, Cameron.
yeah. Okay. So that's a good question. So you're asking if people can get hired in the security field without a college degree, right? That's what you're asking?
I think that's what I was
Yeah.
thinking. Okay.
In defense, or in like CI, or like or in some place where I would be like able to help the nation.
Yeah. Okay. So I will tell you this. IT as a whole is probably one of the best industries for a person to go into that can develop a career without having, a 4-year college degree. Certifications are great, especially if you're in the government sector or the defense sector. So what I would tell you is, I personally have hired more than I can count individuals in the security space without 4-year college degrees. These individuals started off with certifications like that Security Plus. They were able to apply to entry-level security roles. It could have been something within like a SOC analyst role, like a tier 1 role, where they're going to be taught incident response, different things like that, and they've worked their way up. I'm not saying that all positions, I mean, there are some companies out there, and there's a decent amount of companies that do require a 4-year degree, but there's a lot out there that don't. And you can make a really nice career for yourself, even without that degree. It just takes, a self-starter, essentially, in a person that wants to pursue their own education towards this via numerous, training avenues that are out there, even through, like a website called Udemy, for example, is one that I use a lot. But you start working your way towards some certifications, apply to entry-level roles. In today's market, it is a candidate-driven market. There's never been a better time in IT to find a job other than right now. I mean, it's a hot market for anyone wanting to get into this industry.
I'll piggyback off of that. I completely agree, because when I started my internship when I was in Europe, I didn't have a degree, but I knew how to Google and knew how to do what is called Boolean queries, and I was hired immediately. Once I was almost done with my internship and graduated with a full-time job and started my cyber career as a cyber intelligence analyst. And I didn't have a degree at the time. I worked myself, I literally put myself through college and got a degree while I was working full-time and going to school full-time. So you don't need it, but it does help to get you a higher salary initially. And it also helps you to get into, let's say, if you want to progress as a management role, sometimes certain companies in the private sector do require that degree or some type of X amount of experience in lieu of the degree. It really depends on the company. I know for the federal government, if you want to hit a certain salary bracket, you have to have a degree. When I finished my master's, I wasn't accepting nothing less than what they call a GS 11 or GS 12. It really depends on where you want to basically direct your career.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Cameron. Good question, Mahak. And if we look in the chat, there are some resources. So everyone that has registered and signed up for today's series, you guys have been registered for IBM Skills Build. You may already be familiar with it. If not, it is a platform that offers free training classes or courses that are self-paced. You may find some that are relevant to help you on your journey and throughout your career that can help you upskill and be more competitive in the job market. So that's what Hannah is referring to there in the chat. And then Erica also mentioned some more resources about the CompTIA, the annual CompTIA cyber report. There's a link to that as well. Thank you. All right, so there are more questions here. We're just getting warmed up. Let's see who's next. LaJohn, I saw your hand up, but your question may have been answered. Next, I see Aisha. Aisha, you can come off mute if you still have a question.
Hi. So my question is, I have a certification in CompTIA CySA+, that is Cybersecurity Analyst. So I recently got this certification and I started for looking jobs, and every job I see has Security Plus on it. I don't see CySA+ anywhere. So do you think I should go for Security Plus? Because CySA+ is a level up from Security Plus.
Yeah, so here's the thing. It goes back to what we were talking about earlier, depending upon where you want to go in your career. I will tell you this. One of the things candidates should keep in mind right now is don't ever base your applying for a role just off what you see as the must-have in a job description, okay? Job descriptions are written sometimes by HR and they put everything under the sun in there, and what is written as a must-have sometimes can be a nice-to-have. So if I were you, don't let that limit you from applying to different positions. If you are applying to positions in anywhere within the government world, their standards with that Sec Plus, it holds true as kind of the standard across the board. There are other certifications that will serve in place of a Security Plus. I don't know all of them off the top of my head. I could look them up and rattle some off, but just as you're applying, go ahead and apply for them and make sure that, when you talk to someone, if you get an interview, note that the certification that you have and just relate your experience that you do have to that position. So don't ever let a job description deter you from applying for a role, is what I'm saying. But yes, if you want to go back and get your Security Plus, it's not going to hurt you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yep.
I would say it does depend, like he said, depending on your career as well as the company. Say, for instance, DoD. I know for certain positions, even though CISM is required for a certain position, the Sec Plus is the barest minimum to have. So it really depends on what role you're applying for, specifically for that certification type. So if you need, say, for instance, for me, mastering Boolean queries to do the Google search to look for positions, particularly with your with your type of certification, will help you. But just like Cameron said, just because they list something that they prefer doesn't mean that basically push you out the way. The worst thing that you could say to yourself is like, I never got to do it. Just go ahead, shoot your shot, and you never know.
Thank you. All right. Next up, I see hand raised by Josiah.
Thank you very much, everyone, for this amazing opportunity. I'm a recent graduate from Generation USA Security Analyst program. And my question is, I've been trying to look for jobs, and finding a genuinely entry-level job seems impossible. I don't know, am I looking at the wrong place? But even finding like unpaid internship, being noticed by recruiters and companies seems a tough process. What was your first job hunting process? What was your first, how did you find the first job, the first internship? Do you mind explaining what was the process, what was the challenge? Thank you very much.
So if I were you, what I would do, I would first make sure that you have a presence on LinkedIn. Okay. That's one of the main ways recruiters will go about finding both entry-level candidates and senior-level candidates. So bulk up your presence on LinkedIn. Secondly, I would go about reaching out to staffing firms such as Apex Systems in your individual market that you live in. So if whatever city you're in, look up local staffing firms that have offices in your city and just pick up the phone and call those places and, ask to speak with a recruiter. Applying for positions, I'll tell you something that a lot of people don't know. When you apply for a job, especially if you're applying for a position with a company, your resume goes to HR, it goes into a database. And if you apply for it, there might be 15 other people that apply for you or for the same job on top of your resume. And if they find, the candidate that they want, within the first 2 or 3 resumes they look at, they may never even get to yours, is what I'm saying. So take a very proactive approach to looking for a job, start reaching out to people and start getting in contact with people over the phone. Recruiters with, companies like Apex is about the best way you can do it. And the reason I say that is because we have relationships with hiring managers across the board with many of the larger companies in the market that you live in. It's the easiest way to get your resume in front of a manager. And more often than not, when we do this, we're not submitting over 10 resumes for a position that we're working on for that client. We're submitting over 2 or 3 of our top candidates to one position. So the competition that you're facing in terms of other candidates for a position is a whole lot smaller than if you just apply to a position you found posted online somewhere.
So to piggyback off of that, the DMV is a very small place. It's basically who you know. I will say that certain times I've went to conferences in a private sector person like, hey, I want to hire you. And I'll sometimes send out like my digital resume. I have a QR code for my resume ready to go if I meet somebody at a conference, or just like Cameron said, my LinkedIn, please, for the love of God, put on your professional profile pic, make it look professional. we do see that stuff when we're looking at your the candidates, because we don't, it's about appearances, I hate to say it, and things have not changed too much where people are like especially the federal government, we have a lot of older folks that like they look at the picture and like, oh no, so I have to kind of like, hey, this is, we want to attract talent not just by looks. We're looking at what they bring to the table. Let's meet them. Let's see if their personality mesh. And the other part of, interviewing, you're interviewing them. They're not interviewing you. You're interviewing them to see if you are a fit. Can they basically fit into your lifestyle? This is year 2022. And I know everybody is, trying to look for jobs, but at the same time, there is an opportunity. There's always an opportunity. It's just how you basically word your resume.
Yeah, I would say, even look at some of the, there's companies out there, and even the companies like staffing firms, right? Like if a candidate comes to me when I was recruiting and, they applied, before I would send their resume to a client, I would generally work with that person on their resume to make it look as polished as possible. And what Kim said about your LinkedIn profile picture, definitely look, polished and sharp in that picture. And you know, that goes a long way. Having been a part of recruiting for years and years and years, well, you see all sorts of pictures, and trust me, there's some funny ones out there. But you know, for applying for a position, you know, make it look professional.
Good points, Cameron and Kimberly. Thank you. And I think Erica put in the chat that there is an article by Cameron about a good entryway points into a cybersecurity job. So there's a link to that in the chat. Next hand up I see is Abdu. Abdu.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Abdul Gaspard. I don't have any question, but I'm a cybersecurity analyst at Bank of America. So I saw the thing. I said, let me jump in. First and foremost, the young people, I have some advice for you. When you're trying to go for your certification, know the term, because the term is very helpful. Like when you have when you have an interview, show them you know the term, but you don't know how to apply it. Because the one thing I can see is the industry now, the young people, they are scared to show, okay, I know them, but I want to apply for it. I want a job like to show them what I can do it. And the second thing is for, I don't know who exactly, they are hiring at Bank of America for SOC level 1. I think they put it outside. And the last thing is the LinkedIn, trying to put your LinkedIn visible. The dress, show them you want it, you know, have a good thing on your LinkedIn. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for sharing, Abdu. Thank you for joining us, and thanks so much for sharing that information with us. The next hand up I see is, well, I see Angelica, and then I'm going to come back to Mahak.
Hey, everybody. Thank you, Deidra, for hosting. Thank you, Cameron and Kimberly, for being our guest speaker. Well, I just wanted to say, I know we covered it a little bit earlier, but just wanted to get a little more detailed response as far as, like, let's say that fortunately we do pass through the system, our resume gets passed through the system, it's pulled, we got an interview going. Is there anything aside from the ordinary interviewing tips like STAR method responses and, you know, showing that you actually are interested in the company and you did your research on that? Is there anything else that will set aside or set apart a candidate?
The STAR method, I like you brought that up. So I'd actually never heard of the STAR method until one of my buddies, after I'd been recruiting for a while, told me about that, and I looked that up, and I think it's a really good method to use. But you know, one thing that I would do when you're saying you know, research on the company, there's a few pointers I would give. If you know who your manager is you're going to interview with, look them up on LinkedIn, right? Do some research on the person that you're going to be speaking with. See if you can find some common ground with that person. You know, maybe you find out that, hey, they went to, you know, the same college as you, or, you know, maybe they, you know, there's something there that you can use as an icebreaker with them. I think that's always big to, in an interview, be able to showcase a little bit of your personality, along with, you know, your technical aptitude and your drive and all of that. The other thing I would do just in research about the company, you know, I always thought it was good to look at, you know, not just what the company did, but maybe if there's any, you know, articles, press releases, stuff like that for major initiatives that they have going at any given time. You know, maybe they made an acquisition of another company, and you know, in the security space, right? I mean, there's a lot that goes into that, you know, with getting that company integrated into the parent organization from a security posture standpoint. You know, and then from there, just as far as other interview tips, you know, the more prepared you are, the more research you've done on the job description about what the role entails, that sort of thing, just once you get on the phone or get on an interview, be honest with them. If they ask you a question that you don't know the answer to, the worst thing you can ever do is try and, BS your way through it. Try and, say, hey, listen, this is something I don't have experience with. I'm a fast learner. I'm very resourceful. And if posed with a situation where I needed to develop a solution, I could use the tools I have available to me to do that. And just, that's really it. Like, interviewing is it's not hard. It's just, learning how to navigate that type of a conversation, as being prepared as you possibly can be.
Yep, I would say that with Cameron. I would say, again, interviewing is about not just you trying to figure out if you fit in. It's always about you trying to ask questions. If you don't ask questions, you don't know what type of team you're going to be working with, or the manager. If you ask questions, it lets the interviewer know that, okay, this person is, one, doing their research, they're interested in position, and actually see whether or not you both mesh well. Make it interactive. I always try to, like Cameron say, research on LinkedIn, see if I have any connections, ask friends or any connections, say, okay, do you have more further information about this position, or, the manager or direction. I always ask too, with the regards of the position, where is this particular team or division see themselves in the next 3 to 5 years, and are there potential growth? Because what you don't want to do is get in position and then find out, like, oh, you kind of feel like hoodwinked, like there's no growth, or there's no training, or there's no time, say for instance, for work-life balance. You don't want that. So ask questions.
Great interview tips. Thank you. And LeJohn, I see you had a question in the chat, but I also see your hand raised. Do you want to come off mute?
Yes, sorry about that. Thank you. My next question would be, as someone who doesn't really have any experience in the cyber field, but experience with IT and programming and stuff like that, and somebody who doesn't have certifications, what are, like, I guess, like maybe 2 or 3 positions you guys could suggest we look at applying or look into to start off in cybersecurity?
Yeah, so you're saying coming into something with really zero experience altogether?
Yeah, but is familiar with IT though.
Oh, familiar with IT. Okay.
Yeah, just not like cybersecurity specifically.
In what capacity are you familiar with IT?
I've done some programming, done a lot of programming within like Salesforce or Sales Cloud.
Okay.
That's pretty much it. So
look at SOC roles. Yeah, so Security Operations Center roles. Look at maybe Network Operations Center roles. I'll tell you some of your programming. Do you know Python at all?
Done a little bit of it.
A little bit, okay. Yeah, look at those type of positions. There are a lot of companies out there right now that will take candidates and train them in the realm of incident response. If you really enjoy the hands-on keyboard aspects of security, that's where I would start, and then kind of work up from there. But maybe in the meantime, just to kind of help yourself, start using some of the free training that's out there to kind of build your knowledge base around it, and go from there.
And I would add, as a alum of Europe, we have a bunch of support as well as training. Please take advantage of that.
Oh, yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if you're complacent, then you are responsible for your own growth. If you find yourself not being chosen, or you basically frustrated because, hey, the way you worded things out for these positions, always I at least have a minimum of 30 resumes, because I change things up. Just to piggyback off of Cameron, you can also look at, say for instance, not just SOC roles, you can look at the junior developer or an internship for a junior developer positions if you're doing front end. So it's basically front end programming. It really depends on where you're going, where you want your cybersecurity career to go, whether you're doing development, application development, front end or back end, or computer, even data analytics. That's a big hot thing that's going on right now. If you have a data analytics background and you know how to also program Tableau and make things nice and neat and look at a dashboard, people in the federal government, they're paying folks about $144K starting.
Great plug on training courses, upskilling. And again, we plug back into the chat the link to IBM Skills Build courses that could be relevant to building those cybersecurity fundamentals. So great plugs to that, Kimberly and Cameron. I think Kimberly, I think you also plugged in the chat. I think you also mentioned some networking events as well. And I think there was also another comment you made in the chat, excuse me, about some pathways to get into cybersecurity, where you mentioned some internships for the private sector, the government, NSA training, I believe. So there's some great information in the chat as well for you guys also. We can take a few more questions. Let's see, Mahak.
Thank you. This question is dedicated to the panelists and the YUPRO staff who were the alumni of the YUPRO program. So as someone who can't directly go to college and has to work a year or wait a year before entering college, would you recommend to apply to a YUPRO program, whether in cybersecurity or, as a software dev? And like, would it be helpful for my college life because I would be going to college anyway? Or should I rather work on myself and learn those skills by myself? Yeah, that's my first question. Thank you.
I really say it depends on your financial situation, one, because student loans, you got to pay them back and it's not fun. And depending on also your employer, well, are they willing also to pay that back for you? For me, I knew it in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, having a college degree helps a lot. And I was like, well, I want to get to reach at 100K by the time I'm 30. I did it by 22. That just because I literally just graduated with my degree and had at least a minimum of 5 years of cybersecurity experience with my internship company. So it really depends on you, your financial situation, what you want to do. What I did when I graduated from Europe, I took one class at a time and then double it during the summer to try to graduate within a couple years. So it really depends on your drive, what you want to make your career out of, how you want to basically do your own projection. And remember, you're at your own pace. Never compare yourself to others, because at the end of the day, it's about you.
I would say this, and I mean, look, I have a 4-year degree. It's in anthropology, which has nothing to do with anything we're talking about here, including recruiting. At the time, Apex, when I got hired, required a degree, but in IT, doing technical work, I'll tell you this, like, college isn't for everybody, and anybody on this call who either one is questioning college for one reason or another, maybe they just don't want to go through the 4 years and take out the astronomical amount of loans that it costs to do it now. Please don't think that it's going to put you at some major disadvantage to the rest of the populace in this space, because there's so much that you can do for yourself. If you're a self-starter and you've got the grit to take advantage of all the trainings that are offered to you, go for it.
You guys have some really good questions. I love the conversation that's going. In the interest of time, we're going to just take these last two hands I see, Gary, and then after Gary, Elias.
Yeah, Kim, I agree with you. What is the recruiter view for a candidate with security certifications but a career gap? That's a question that my answer will depend upon what the gap entails and depending upon what you were doing as far as your career during that gap, if it was still in IT. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
So during the gap, I was just taking care of my infant child, and I didn't have any valid visa for working in US. So I was doing some skill upgradation, but not in the cybersecurity. I already had a network engineer experience, but it was in India. Then when we moved back to US, then I was taking care of my child. And then since the network engineer as well as cybersecurity aspects have some authorization requirement, like many of them, they ask for a citizen, and I was on a H1, H4 visa. So I just thought of doing some other IT technical jobs like a business analyst or a Java. I did a few courses, but I did not work on a job. And then currently I'm just doing my cybersecurity course, CompTIA 1. So and I'm planning to restart it. So I'm just a bit confused, like how a recruiter will weigh a resume when you don't have any current.
Yeah. So look, I won't sugarcoat it. I understand that that's a concern, right? And sometimes gaps in experience on a resume. You know, when you, from a recruiter standpoint, you know, we're not generally worried about it, but it comes in when you're applying for a position and say you're up against a bunch of candidates that have, you know, relevant experience. So I get why it's a concern. I would say how you just explained it yourself. I mean, that's what you got to do, right? I mean, you just be open, honest. I mean, no one's going to fault you for anything that you told me. You know, it in today's day and age, it really just takes going back to what I said about reaching out to these companies on an individual basis and making these connections is the best thing that you can do. Because if you have a resume, right, like your resume shouldn't always speak for you, if that makes sense. Like a resume should showcase the experience that you have, but by being proactive in your approach to reach out to these companies and build that relationship, that's going to allow you to overcome, you know, the issue of any gap on your resume. You know, listen, like I've seen people that, you know, have taken 2 years off of work because they wanted a vacation, literally. Like they were in a financial place where they could, and they did. And, you know, it might take a little bit of time to get back into the swing of things, but, you know, they were able to get back into the workforce and go from there. And I will say with security as a whole, for anybody on this call that ever faces a gap, just try and stay up on industry trends. You know, don't completely let everything go if you can keep from it. That way, at least when you come back, you'll feel educated on the changes that happen within the space. Because, I mean, look, security does change pretty quick from year to year. So that's my advice.
Thank you, Cameron. Thanks.
Thank you. And I'm looking in the chat as well. Okay, thank you. So yeah, in the chat, YUPRO does offer services to support you guys in the job search journey. There's a link provided there if you guys ever wanted to attend one of those sessions or needed to work with us. Please feel free to click the link in the chat there. I'm also just making sure that we stay on track with time. You guys are asking some wonderful questions. In the interest of time, Elias will be our last question. Definitely come off mute, Elias, and ask your question.
Hey everybody. So what's it called? Just to be forward, right now I'm a DoD employee with a 2210 series job at a GS12. I'm what's it called? I'm trying to get into a GS13 level position, though I've applied to like 50 department agencies. But I'm a little fish in a huge pond when it comes to GS13. Is there any way I could be more competitive in that field?
Kim, I'm letting you take this one.
It really depends on the job description and what you're basically putting on your resume. So what happens is basically USA Jobs has a little AI that goes through it, especially DHS. They have a really good AI. And if you're really good at your responses and you didn't copy and paste, it would refer you to the hiring manager. The hiring manager would literally see everything. I would say highlight your experiences. If it's so the good thing about USA Jobs, you can put everything and anything in your resume. So if you know you were acting branch chief like for 6 months, like I am, then you basically put that. You break down what you did as far as your daily tasks, what are your results, what did you accomplish, any awards like that, or any recognition, even your bonuses. Put that in, because at the end of the day, you're competing against thousands of GS13s or folks that are going to take a downgrade from a 15 to 13 to get less work. So you are competing against a lot of folks. My thing is keep applying. USA Jobs, yes, it is very tedious and you'll have multiple resumes, but eventually you'll get a call, and depending on how that interview goes, you can have the second interview. When I applied for this job, I had maybe 3 interviews, and I had to deal with the division chief, my current supervisor, as well as the red team operator, the chief. And I got the job just because I was very technical and I know how to manage people and see the lay of the land. So it really depends on your skills, what you bring to the table, what you showcase and highlight. I think the last thing is, if you are in a 2210 series like I am, they do have the option to, I don't know if you've been recently to USA Jobs, if you go to the second tab and the filters, if you go down just before location, you can select remote work. They just recently added that, so you have a lot more options. A lot of people don't know that, so you can click on the fully remote work, see if it's applicable for you, and just go ahead and apply. The other part is knowing somebody in that agency. If you know somebody in that agency that give you a heads up, and you let them know, hey, I want to get connected to the hiring manager. Is it possible? That 9 times out of 10, I really hate to say it, but it's about who you know too, especially from government jobs. I've seen that happen one too many times.
Thank you, Kim. And just doing a time check here, you guys have kept this panel flowing with your wonderful questions. I definitely see some of you guys are saying that you found it very informative. And thank you, Kimberly. I was going to ask, actually, if you guys were comfortable, Kimberly and Cameron, at least putting your LinkedIn, if you wanted them to find you on LinkedIn or connect with you there, if you didn't mind putting it in the chat. Kimberly just put her email address there. Feel free to connect with them, guys. Continue this conversation and build your network and relationships, just as they said on the call. We are at time. I'm so excited. Again, just a reminder that we are looking forward to continuing some more series like this with other topics and things of that nature. Reminder to sign up and continue to register for your IBM Skills Build course. The link is in the chat. Hannah just plugged it there. Kimberly plugged her email address there. And Cameron, if you wanted to share where they could find you.
Yeah, I accidentally just shared it to one person. Hold on. There we go.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you guys. Kimberly, Cameron, thank you guys so much for this plethora of knowledge. I definitely learned a lot more about cybersecurity and a lot of these certifications that are good to have to get into this industry. Thank you guys so much for attending. You guys will hear from us soon after this session.
Yep.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good one, guys.
Bye.